I'm pumped and excited because today is the first video, one of 10 videos that I'm going to be making for all of you to help you in late summer and early fall. I'm calling it 10 insane tricks and tips for September. So over the next the next 10 videos I'll be making specifically for you guys to help you know what you need to be doing to wind up summer and to prepare getting your bees ready for winter. You have a lot of questions. Now, if you see a few more bees flying around my face, it's because I was working some bees just a little bit ago, and I brought my hive tool back here and I laid it down on the table, not realizing that it still had a little bit of honey on it. And that's kind of a tricky thing to do in late summer and fall because there are always bees flying around. Scout bees, robber bees, they're looking for something because during a dearth, there's just nothing out there. And so you can see here on my hive tool, they're just trying to get that little bit of honey off of there. And that brings us to one of the tips that I want to share with you, the start of this series. I'm going to share with you today how important it is and exactly how to feed your bees in a community feeder. Another video we're going to talk about feeding them from the top, but this is all about the importance of feeding your bees from a community feeder. I'm going to set one up for you guys. I'm going to show you how I set mine up. I'm going to show you how I use protein powder, the important additives that I add, and exactly how I set it up so that a rainstorm in the fall doesn't destroy it. That's going to be really important. Now, setting up this community feeder before we get out there in the field, let me tell you, it's going to be important for you guys to realize this can really cut down on robbing. A lot of times when bees have easy access to something like what we're feeding them in a community feeder, they're not so apt to rob because they don't have to fight any bees to get there. Also, remember that when you do have a community feeder, you are just doing that. You're feeding the community. You're going to be feeding the community of other people's bees if they're close by. Bald-faced hornets, wasps, yellow jackets, ants. Everybody loves a little sweet and a little protein when there's nothing out there. But you know what? That's just par for the course. I'm not worried about that. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's make that community feeder happen. So in setting up my community feeder, I've used a top feeder that I've had sitting around. But you can use anything, a bowl, a plate, something to hold your sugar water. Now let me tell you what I've done here to mix this up. I've actually have mixed up 1-to-1 sugar water, and then I've added all of the ingredients from our additive pack that we sell. Added a little bit of Honeybee Healthy, a little bit of protein powder for bees, pollen substitute, and a little bit of amino bee booster, 1 teaspoon per quart of 1-to-1 sugar water. Now the reason that we can add so much is because we're going to use a deep hive body to go around it, and then we're going to use a top cover to cover it from the top, and we're going to leave a little bit of opening, quite a bit of an opening at the top, but we're not going to put the top cover on yet. We're not going to put the deep hive body on yet. We're going to let the bees find this. Sometimes when you first put it out, depending on your area and how many bees you have and how much of a dearth, how much you're into the dearth, it varies on how long it takes bees to discover this. But once they do, it'll be a feeding frenzy. Now, warning, warning, don't put this anywhere close to your hives. It could cause bees traveling by your hives to get here to stop off at your hives and rob them. So you want to put this in a real far away location. I recommend minimal 50 yards. That's 150 feet away from your hives. If you have 100 yards, you have big property, further away from your hives, the better. That's so important. Now, let's get some twigs and some rocks and fill this up so bees don't drown. Just leave that board right there. Now, let's put some more sticks in the box. I can put a smaller one here. All right, so what I've got is some tree bark from a maple tree that the storm did some damage to. So I'm going to use pieces of that, piece of the tree bark, and just put it in the water just so that bees can have some place to land on. That way if they get caught swimming and they can't get to shore safely, they can use all these little pieces of sticks that I'm putting in to actually get up on top of the sticks and not drown. Like I said before, bees aren't really good swimmers at all, and so let's help them out a little bit. Plus, they need some place to stand while they're drinking the sugar water as well. Yeah, that's good enough there. So I've got pretty good places where bees can get a little foothold to find a place to sit and eat. And I don't need to put my deep on, but when I get ready to take this, like if it starts to rain or if I just want to protect it from something, then I'll just put my deep right on top of it like this. I don't want to do it now because there's still some bees cleaning up the edge. And then I would put my top cover on, and then I would just put a little rock or something under my top cover so that bees can gain access under the top cover. Some of you may be wondering how long it took this many bees to find it. It took about 2 to 3 hours for this number of bees to find it. Now, all of these will be going back and telling the other colonies where all this food is. So that makes up a lot of colonies actually. So it won't take long at all for this to really be filled up with a lot of bees. Well, as time has gone on, maybe an hour later from my last clip, you can see how many bees are now gathered in. So each day there'll be more bees, and the thing I'll have to do is keep mixing up more of my solution. That's my feeding additives, 1-to-1 sugar water, 1 teaspoon of Honey Bee Healthy, teaspoon of pollen protein substitute, and 1 teaspoon of amino bee booster. And then that mixes up really good. And this is going to help you raise bees of winter physiology. It's pretty exciting. Now, these 10 next videos are important, and you may want to subscribe and click on the bell so you'll be notified each time I make a new video, because it's going to be one of these 10 videos I've got in the pike, so you guys can really get informed about preparing your bees for winter. So be sure and subscribe so you'll be updated every time I make a new episode of this series of 10 tricks and tips and hacks for the month of September. Let me just remind you guys that Thursday night, every Thursday night, 7 p.m., it's time for live stream where I answer your questions, 7 p.m. Central Time. This Thursday, if you're watching this video the day I release it, then this Thursday I'm having a guest, Dr. David Peck. A lot of you know Dr. David Peck from conferences, Hive Live. He's spoken a lot around the country. He'll be great to have. And you'll have an opportunity to ask Dr. David Peck some questions. So be sure and check out my live stream every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. I want to share with you guys 4 things that beekeeping taught me over 20 years. Hopefully you'll learn from me and it won't take you 20 years. But I made a video. It's actually recorded during a live stream, so you get to see what our live streams are like. Take a look at it right here. 4 things I learned in 20 years. I'll see you over there.